We're going to be previewing UFC 321 going down tomorrow, Saturday, October 25th. We're going to just preview the main card, give some predictions. Again, not a betting show or stream, but we will give you some odds that we like. Of course, not financial advice. But yeah, let's get right into it. UFC 321. Finally, the UFC undisputed heavyweight champion Tom Aspinall will get to defend that undisputed heavyweight title against Cyril Gane. Let's just go over. Just gonna read through all the fights on that main card, and then we'll go through, break down each one. All right. So the first fight on the main cards. It's actually 24 hours from now. Tomorrow at this exact time, 10 a.m. is when the prelim starts. Abu Dhabi card. So of course it's gonna be those early fights. 10 a.m. prelims, 2 p.m. Yeah, 2 p.m. main card start time. So we got. So first up in the light heavyweight division, we'll see Alexander Rakic taking on Azamat Murzakanov. And then the second fight of the main card in the heavyweight division, just like the main event, two heavyweights going at it. Alexander Volkov will be taking on Jailton Almeida. Third fight of that main card in the bantamweight division, my favorite division, all of UFC and probably mixed martial arts all together. We have Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Mario Bautista. And then for the, I guess it'll be a vacant strawweight title, women's, of course, Verna Jandiroba will be taking on Mackenzie Dern. That's going to be a banger. And co-main, they fought once before. They're doing that rematch now. And then Tom Aspinall, of course, UFC undisputed heavyweight champion. Like we said, defending that title against Cyril Gane. Let's just start down here. Alexander Rakic taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Azamat is 15-0. Alexander Rakic 14-5. So let's just go through some of these, some of their history, their last several fights, and we'll give our predictions here. So Alexander Rakic, let's check it out. So he is 14-5, but he's really only lost to pretty much the cream of the crop in that light heavyweight division, Alexander Rakic's last few fights. So he lost to Magomed Ankalaev. Not a lot of people have beat Ankalaev, at least recently, outside of Poatan. Before that, Rakic lost to Yuri. Again, the only person that's beaten Yuri is Alex. As of late, he lost to Jan. So Alexander Rakic is coming off of 3 straight losses, but again, all top tier guys, all former champions or interim champs. So Alexander Rakic lost to Magomed, Yuri, and Jan. But before that, he beat Thiago Santos, and Anthony Smith. Right before that, he lost a close split decision to Volkan Ozdemir. But, I mean, before that first loss, or before that most recent, before that loss to Volkan in 2019, he was on quite the streak. He beat Jimmy Manuwa, Devin Clark, Justin Ledet, Francisco Barossa, Sergio Souza, whatever. A lot of guys, that's a different promotion. But before Rakic lost to Volkan, he was on like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... like a 13 fight win streak, and then lost to Volkan. But yeah, again, Alexander Rakic, as of late at least, has only lost to those top guys, Ankalaev, Yuri, and Jan. Whereas Azamat Murzakanov has 0 losses on his pro MMA record as of right now, but he has not been quite as active. So yeah, he's undefeated. His last fight was on that Marab versus Sean O'Malley 2 card back in June. He beat Brenson Ribeiro, who I'm not even sure who that is. And then before that, Azamat defeated Alonzo Menafield, Dustin Jacoby, Devin Clark, Tafan. I'm going to butcher that. But yeah, the guy's never lost, but he hasn't fought nearly the level of competition that Rakic has fought. And honestly, this is one of those where I think... my brain's kind of telling me Azamat's going to win. I'm rooting for Alexander Rakic to get back in the win column. He's super exciting in that weight. Let's look at some of these bets, though. Some of these bet lines right now. So this opener is pretty much even money line. Rakic is a very slight favorite, I guess. He's minus 115. Azamat is minus 105. Um, Honestly, as a prediction, I don't know who's going to win this one. Like I said, I'm going to cheer for Rakic. As far as bets go, I think the safest bet for this one right now, for it to go under 2.5 rounds, I think one of those guys will be able to stop the other one, whether straight knockout or TKO. And then the finish, so under 2.5 is minus 105 right now. I think that's probably the safest bet for that opener. Two strong, powerful light heavyweights that have the ability to knock out the other one. So my official prediction, I'm actually going to say Azamat, but I'm rooting for Rakic. Betting wise, I think the safest bet there, avoid betting on either one and just go under 2.5 rounds. I think one of them gets the stoppage. That's about minus 105. So may steer clear from that fight entirely, but minus 2.5 rounds under 2.5 rounds at minus 105 for that opener, I think is a safe bet. Let's move on to the second fight of that main card. We have Alexander Volkov taking on Jailton Almeida. That's super exciting. Two obviously contenders in that heavyweight division. Tom Aspinall has beaten Volkov already, but we'll get to that later. So Volkov and Jailton Almeida. Let's go through some of Volkov and Jailton's last several fights here. Pretty sure Volkov's last loss was, Volkov's last loss was to Cyril Gane, but a lot of people thought Volkov actually won. But I'm okay with them giving Aspinall the Gane fight. You know, bigger name, fresher opponent, because we said Aspinall has beaten Volkov in the past, even though I think Volkov did get robbed in that Gane fight. So Alexander Volkov's last fight, loses that close, arguable split decision to Cyril Gane. But before that, he was on like a 4-fight tear. He beat Sergey Pavlovich by decision. He beat Tai Tuivasa with that nasty Ezekiel choke in the second round. So Volkov has the submission, has some submissions in his bag. Before that, he beat Alexander Romanov by punches from back control, so TKO punches. So he was on the ground with Romanov as well and was able to finish him. Before that, Volkov beat Rosenstruck, who's no longer in the UFC, but he beat him in the very first round with punches. So Volkov, as we know, is massive, 6'7", 6'8", whatever. Just a massive heavyweight, obviously. And then he's taken on Jailton Almeida, who we know is not quite as big. I think he comes in and fights around like 230. So doesn't max out that 265 weight limit. But yeah, he has the speed. He has great submissions. Let's look at Almeida, some of his last fights. Jailton Almeida Malhadinho. He's 34 years old. It's 6'4". His record is 22-3. His last few fights here, he actually beat, TKO'd Sergey Spivak, Polar Bear. He beat Alexander Romanov as well, so they have a couple similar opponents there. But he did lose to Curtis Blades. I remember that fight. Jailton Almeida, I think, was a pretty big favorite. He tried to take Curtis Blades to the ground and ended up eating either like a knee or some elbows or whatever. But he lost to Curtis Blades, so he hasn't been completely dominant with his ground game. Let's see. But before that, yeah, I mean, he was just on a crazy tear. We're not going to talk about fights outside of the UFC, but Jailton Almeida came into the Dana White Contender Series 4 years ago. So 2021, he won his Dana White Contender Series fight by submission. And then he goes on a tear here. He beat Danilo Marquez, Parker Porter, Anton Sergalj, Shamil Abdurakhimov. He beat Rosenstruck also. He beat Derek Lewis, loses to Curtis Blades, and then he gets those back-to-back wins after the loss. He beat Romanov and Sergey Spivak. So Almeida, not completely dominant, but when he gets guys to the ground, he definitely gives them some problems. So I don't know. There's another one. It's gonna be tough to bet on. I think I'm gonna be rooting for Alexander Volkov. Obviously, it's going to come down to whether he can stuff those takedowns, whether he can stuff the shots of Jailton. avoid even messing with the ground game at all, even though Volkov has some submission tools in his bag, like we said. Let's look at some of these betting lines, because this fight, another one, hard to predict straight up. But right now, Volkov is the underdog, sitting at approximately plus 164. Almeida, the slight favorite at minus 198. Almeida has 13 submission victories, but he does have some TKOs as well. So I don't know if I think if he does beat Volkov, Almeida will do it by submission. I don't think he's going to be able to get him out of there on the feet or with, punches on the ground. I think if Almeida does win, like I said, it'll be submission. So that right now is approximately plus 140. So if you're one of those that thinks Almeida's going to win but doesn't like that minus 198 money line, I think you go Almeida by submission plus 140. Yeah, so if you think Almeida's going to win, I think you take it by submission. I think that's how he does it. You can still get the plus money on that. But personally, if I'm going to bet on this one, I'm not going either guy again. It's too hard to predict, just like that first fight. But so I think I'm going to take the over 1.5 at minus 130. Yeah, I think this gets out of that first round. Not sure why that line is big there. Okay, so minus 130 for over 1.5 rounds for Jailton Almeida versus Volkov. I think that's the safest bet if you don't want to pick either guy. But straight up, I mean, I would take a chance on Volkov just because he is the underdog. Volkov, again, approximately plus 164. But yeah, the bet I like most for that fight is to make it over that 1.5 round mark at minus 130. Yeah, so let's move on. Look to this next fight in the bantamweight division. This fight's going to be absolutely insane. Umar Nurmagomedov taking on Mario Bautista. That third fight on the main card. Let's just go back and remind ourselves here of some of these guys' last few fights. Of course, Umar's last fight, he lost the championship opportunity fight against Merab. Not many people have been able to solve Merab. But before that, Umar was undefeated. Yeah, he's 18-1. Before that, Merab lost. He beat Corey Sandhagen, Beksat Almakan, Rayoni Barcelos, Nathan Manzis, Brian Kelleher, Sergey. Honestly, as far as like name appeal and big names, Umar doesn't really have that many big names or impressive guys on his resume except for Corey Sandhagen, which that alone is super impressive for Nurmagomedov. I don't think Merab dominated Umar like a lot of people are saying. But then I'm seeing the other side where it's saying it was razor sharp or whatever. I think Merab did handle Umar decisively in that fourth and fifth round, but the first three were not that dominant for Merab. Umar, obviously, his Dagestani roots and everything, his ground, we know what he can do. Mario Bautista, let's look at his few fights, because he's one of those guys that a lot of people don't bet on, but he'll come and turn away some of these newcomers. Yeah, so Mario Bautista just recently on that Merab versus O'Malley card back in June, Mario Bautista beat Patchy Mix. He beat Jose Aldo. He beat Ricky Simone. Beat Damon Blackshear. So, I mean, Mario Bautista hasn't lost since 2021. He lost by TKO to Trevin Jones. But I don't think Umar is going to do that to him. Interestingly enough, they have both lost to Corey Sandhagen. So we know Umar lost to him, and Mario Bautista has lost to Corey Sandhagen as well. And that was by submission. So, I mean, if Mario got submitted by Corey Sandhagen, that's not to say that Umar can easily submit Mario, but Mario has been submitted in the past. So, but yeah, only, 16-2, Mario Bautista. I mean, I like him. I like that he's kind of a dark horse in this division. Definitely has the better, or at least more impressive, like, names on his resume. Man, this one's tough. I think I'm gonna go with Umar. I just don't know if Umar will be able to finish him. Like I said, Mario hasn't lost since 2021, and he hasn't and his only loss by submission was back in 2019 to Sandhagen. So Mario is pretty tough to finish, pretty durable. I don't think Umar steamrolls him. A lot of people think Umar's boring. He has a lot of decision victories, but he does have finishes too. So it's not like Umar is just, you know, wrestle humping these guys to death. But let's look at some of the bet lines because that'll make it a little more interesting. So Umar right now, of course, massive favorite. Straight up Aspinall, round 2 Kimura. I like that. I have a little sprinkle bet coming up for that. But Umar minus 650. So straight up money line, there's really not a lot of value there unless you have a crazy bankroll where you're betting, you know, $5 on Umar straight up. Whatever. That's not where we're at. But Umar minus 650. Not a lot of value there straight up. If for whatever reason you think Mario Batista can do it, he's plus 470. Go ahead and throw a dart on there. But I think Umar wins. But some more interesting money lines or lines to look at. Umar by decision is minus 170. So if you think Umar's going to win, for sure he's going to win. If that's your thought process, but you don't want to take the minus 650 overall. I'd go Umar by decision minus 170. That's pretty tempting right there. Or you can look at Umar by submission victory. That's plus 350. So if you're only one of those, you know, one of those guys, girls who only likes to bet, when's Alex's next fight? I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think he should move up to heavyweight. I think he wants that John Jones fight at the White House. Of course, that'd be a massive payday for him. I assume you're talking about Pereira when you said Alex. But yeah, where were we? So Umar by submission is plus 350. So if you're one of those people who only like to bet on like underdogs or like big plus money, Umar by submission plus 350 is tempting there also. But don't be surprised if Umar wins but doesn't get the finish. He very likely to win by decision. So I'm thinking the safest bet for this one, Umar Nurmagomedov to defeat Mario Batista by decision minus 170. I'd take that all day long. All right, now we're going to move on to the co-main event, that vacant women's strawweight championship. Let's check that out. Verna Jandiroba taking on Mackenzie Dern. I think Mackenzie Dern is the slight favorite right now, but let's just take a look at some of their most recent fights. So Verna, dang, Jandiroba. Heck yeah, dude. Let's see. Karkara, she is 22-3. She's 37 years old. Taking on Mackenzie Dern. Again, these two have fought before. Mackenzie Dern won, but it wasn't dominant by any means. She won by, I think it was split decision. I know it was decision, not sure. Split or unanimous. I'll check that here in a second. But Verna Jandiroba has been on a tear. I mean, she beat Yan Xiaonan just this past April, beat Amanda Lemos, Lupita Godinez, Marina Rodriguez, and Angela Hill. So Jandiroba is on 5-fight win streak. They were all submissions though, except for they were all decisions except for her submission victory over Amanda Lemos. But she has been on a tear. Again, not the most exciting fighter is Verna, but she's been dominant lately. So just look back Mackenzie Dern's last several fights here. Yeah, so Mackenzie Dern, 15-5. She's 32 years old. So she did get a very nice submission victory, that armbar in the 3rd round in her last fight against Amanda Ribas. And then before that, she beat Lupita Godinez. But she lost to Amanda Lemos. So Mackenzie Dern has lost. You know, you can't do MMA math, but Mackenzie Dern has lost to Amanda Lemos, whereas Verna beat Lemos. So there's something there. Mackenzie Dern's also lost to Jessica Andrade via TKO punches. So she has taken some damage not too long ago. That fight was a little less than 2 years ago. But just rattling off Mackenzie Dern's last several fights. Beat Ribas, beat Godinez, but she lost to Lemos, lost to Andrade, beat Angela Hill, and another one that Mackenzie Dern has lost to, but Verna beat is Yan Xiaonan, and that's actually Verna's most recent victory over Yan Xiaonan. Probably butchering that, but again, you can't do MMA math. Just because one person beat somebody and then somebody else lost to that same person, they fight each other, doesn't mean that they're gonna lose. But it's something to note, especially with these women's fights where a lot of them kind of fight each other. So yeah, honestly, let's look at the bet lines right now. I think yeah, so Jandia Roba is the slight underdog at plus 130. Mackenzie Dern approximately minus 155, depending which sports book you use. If I'm going to go straight up and just making a pick, I actually do think Verna Jandiroba is going to defeat Mackenzie Dern. I don't think she does it any crazy fashion, maybe a submission. I don't think either of these girls are going to knock each other out. Most likely it's going to go to decision. Like we said, these two have fought each other in the past, and Mackenzie Dern actually beat Verna, but yeah, I think Verna has just been on a better tear as of late, beaten some higher level competition that Mackenzie Dern has actually lost to herself. So yeah, if I'm gonna bet, I don't know if I'm betting straight up on this one. I do like Jandiroba in the underdog spot at plus 130, but an interesting line here is over 4.5. So if you think neither of these girls are going to get the finish and it's just going to go to a decision, I would just take that minus 140. They're still getting still minus 140. So personally, if I'm going to bet on this one, I'm just going to take Jandiroba straight up because I think she could submit her. Or get the decision victory. I'm going to go Verna Jandiroba plus 130 straight up. I think she gets a slight upset victory over Mackenzie Dern. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy with that for whatever reason, but I think Verna does get the upset and she will become new UFC Women's Strawweight Champion. All right, on to the main event. Yeah, Tom Aspinall, finally UFC undisputed heavyweight champion, taking on Ciryl Gane, who's had so many title opportunities. We know Ciryl Gane's lost to John Jones. Aspinall has just been on absolute tear. Let's see what just to get an actual refresher here, Aspinall's last several fights. Tom Aspinall, 32 years old. He is 15-3. I mean, just every way he wins, I don't think he has a decision victory on his record at all. Oh, I lie. You have to go back to 2013 to find Tom Aspinall's last decision victory. Every other fight, he has either knocked a guy out. He has a ton of submission victories, too. I mean, even dating back to his amateur days. He's been training since a little kid. Obviously, this is in his blood. It's part of his path. It seems like he's inevitable to go on a crazy title run is Tom Aspinall, but yeah, let's just see. So he had that big knee injury, as we know, 3 years ago, back in July 2022. Barely got the fight started. It was 15 seconds into the fight, and he kind of blew out his knee, just a freak step or whatever. So Curtis Blades didn't really beat Tom Aspinall, but that does count as an official loss. But after that, I mean, he was able to beat Marcin Tybura in the very first round in just a little over a minute by TKO, the elbows, punches. He beat Sergey Pavlovich by TKO again in a minute, and then gets that rematch, gets a chance to avenge himself against Curtis Blades, knocks him out. So, I mean, Tom Aspinall has some losses on his record. You'd have to dig really deep to find them. Yeah, I mean, I want to hype this up and make it sound like it's going to be a close fight, but I think Tom Aspinall is going to smoke Ciryl Gane, to be honest with you. But here, let's go to Ciryl Gane's just to see. Man, this guy's had so many title shots. So he's 13-2. His only losses coming from John Jones and Francis Ngannou. But this heavyweight division just isn't that deep, to be honest. So, of course, we're going to see a lot of crossover here. But if we look at Ciryl Gane dating back to, I don't know. I mean, he made his UFC debut in 2019, and he rattled off 2 submission victories. So that's interesting. I didn't know, rather, that Ciryl Gane had any submission victories. So his first 2 fights in the UFC, he actually submits the guy, Rafael Pessoa and Dontel Mays. And then he goes on to beat Tanner Boza, Junior Dos Santos, Rosenstruck, Volkov, Derek Lewis. And then Cyril Gane runs into Francis Ngannou in 2022. Didn't get completely wrecked. It was a decision victory, but Francis was able to utilize his wrestling and get Cyril Gane on the ground, a la John Jones. But after that Francis fight, Cyril Gane goes on to knock out Tai Tuivasa. He's one of my favorites. I think he's a fan favorite overall. He gets that knockout over Tai Tuivasa, and then he gets his next title shot. Cyril Gane took on John Jones in March of 2023. A lot of us know how that went. Very first round, submission victory for John Jones. Yeah, and then he bounces back, though. Cyril Gane able to get 2 wins after that loss back-to-back. So he beat Sergey Spivak, TKO, punches in the second round, and then he beat Alexander Volkov just this past December. But we touched on it a little bit earlier when we talked about Volkov's fight. A lot of people think that Volkov actually beat Cyril Gane. Not going to argue with that, but they ended up giving the decision to Cyril Gane. Like I said, Tom Aspinall's already beat Volkov, so I understand why they didn't run back Volkov and Gane immediately. Cyril Gane presents a new contender to Tom Aspinall, somebody he's never fought. Big following in France, of course, his home country. So Cyril Gane, probably the bigger star than Volkov, even though his last victory was kind of controversial. But yeah, let's look at some of these lines instead, because I think a lot of people are just expecting Tom Aspinall to run through Cyril Gane. I'm one of them. I do think he does that, but let's see if there's any interesting sprinkles we can throw on there betting-wise to make it a little more interesting. So Tom Aspinall right now, just straight up, he's at minus 340, so very big favorite. Tom Aspinall minus 340 coming into that fight. So he's the big favorite as expected going in there against Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane, if you like him to beat Aspinall for whatever reason, he is plus 270. So that might be a worth a dart. Not for me, though. But if we look at some of these, more particular bets, Aspinall by submission, very likely outcome here. That's plus 275. So, if you're under the same impression I am and you think Aspinall is just going to go in there and knock him out relatively quickly, obviously don't pick him to win by submission. But if you're not sure, if you think this fight goes maybe more than 1 round, or you're one of those people that don't think Cyril Gane's just going to get knocked out right away, Aspinall has the ability. He has plenty of submission victories under his belt. So that's interesting. If you want to go there, Aspinall by submission plus 275 might be interesting. But the personal bet I'm going to go with this one, being that Aspinall is such a big favorite at minus 340, I don't think there's much value there besides, just picking him just based on, I think he's going to run through Cyril Gane for the most part. Can't bet in Cali, no. If you have friends somewhere else, maybe they can put some bets in for you. Again, it's not like a betting channel. This isn't financial advice, of course, but just trying to look for some of those little darts maybe that may be more interesting for people rather than just, Aspinall minus 340. Not a ton of value besides just putting a big chunk on him because he probably will win. But I like that minus 120 for this to go under 1.5 rounds. If you think somehow Cyril Gane lasts more than a round and a half against Tom Aspinall, I guess stay away from that one. But personally, that's what I think has the most value betting-wise. Under 1.5 rounds, minus 120. Put a few bucks on that. Yeah, I don't think Gane lasts out of that first round, much less the entire next half round. So, yeah, Tom Aspinall, I think he wins. I think TKO or knockout, probably within that first round. But if you want to get fancy with it, you think Gane might not get knocked out, go Aspinall by submission plus 275. That's tempting, but I think Aspinall knocks him out, so I don't think it even gets to the ground at that point. But straight up betting wise, we'll just run through back and just do all of our picks, not bets included. So that first fight of the main card again, Alexander Rakic taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Rooting for Rakic, but I think Azamat Murzakanov gets it done. And then in the heavyweight division, Alexander Volkov taking on Jailton Almeida. Again, this one's very tough to pick straight up, but I'm going to go Volkov, actually. Yeah, I'm going to go Volkov there. He's a slight underdog, so I like him in that spot. Third fight of that main card, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista. Again, we like Umar there. Not much value in Umar in a straight-up, whatever that money line is. Again, it's like minus 650. But if you're looking at Umar by finish, Umar by submission is plus 350 right now. That's very tempting. Or if you just think it's going to go all 5 rounds, Umar, I think, most likely will win by decision, minus 170. That seems... But straight up, Umar versus Mario, just a straight pick. I'm going Umar. And then women's strawweight championship. Again, that co-main event, Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. In a rematch, like we said, Mackenzie Dern eked out a, slight decision victory in their first fight. I just feel like Virna has been on the bigger tear as of late. And straight up, especially being that she's a slight underdog, give us Virna to upset Mackenzie Dern. And in that main event, again, not going to harp on it too much. Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane. Already went through some of those interesting little sprinkles betting-wise, but straight up, Tom Aspinall, I don't see how he loses this fight, to be honest with you. I think he gets that first round knockout, TKO. Yeah, so those are my official picks and predictions for tomorrow, October 25th, UFC 321. Just went through the main card. But yeah, sub up if you enjoyed this video at all. Drop a like. Subscribe. Actually, in a few hours, 3 p.m. my time, 3 p.m. Eastern, we're dropping a brand new interview with professional fighter Christian Carr. He's based out of the Fort Myers, Florida area. He's from Lancaster, PA. Moved down to Fort Myers, I think just this past March. Recently got a submission victory in Cage Fighter Fury Championship 147. So just 2 weeks ago, Christian Carr got that submission victory. So stay tuned for that. 3 p.m. today. That's going to drop. Interview's already done, all that. And it's set to drop 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central. Christian Carr, he's been on the pod before. He returned. Stay tuned for that. He gives great insight why he moved out of PA. Of course, he recaps and takes us through the sequence of his submission victory. And he discusses Marab. Me and him discussed this card a little bit too. So you'll get some predictions and insight from an actual pro fighter if you check out that pod later on. 3 p.m., Championship Harvest number 34, Christian Carr. Stay tuned for that. Again, UFC 321 going down Saturday. It's an early card, so don't sleep in. 10 a.m., those prelims start. 2 p.m. on the East Coast for the main card. Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane. Again, right before I get out of here, give me Tom Aspinall to defeat Ciryl Gane by knockout or TKO. Certainly under that 1.5 round mark, probably within the first round. Tom Aspinall, yeah, I don't see how he loses this fight, and I predict him to go on a crazy tear in that division and maybe set some records there as well. So, yeah, if you like Tom Aspinall in that betting spot, go ahead and take him. I think he knocks him out. I think that fight is less than a round and a half. For sure, I think Virna upsets Mackenzie Dern, and Umar slides to a pretty dominant, most likely decision victory over Bautista. So, main card, give us Rakic, Volkov, Umar, Virna, Aspinall. We're going all red corner on this main card. So, those are our final predictions. Tom Aspinall will knock out Ciryl Gane or TKO him in the first round. Changing it from a prediction to a spoiler. Tom Aspinall knocking out Ciryl Gane. It's going to happen. And again, make sure 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central, we have a new interview podcast dropping with pro fighter Christian Carr based out of Florida. So, yeah, that's all we got. Peace out.